Hi, it's me again. Can we talk? Today I am going to begin my yarn dyeing adventure. I had plans and they've kind of changed, but I'm going to go with it. I didn't know my containers were going to come today, so I'm going to start this on Thursday, the 17th of September, but I may not be finished for a day or two. At any rate, I am going to, at this point, make my first 1% dye stock solutions. And I'm going to be using Jacquard Fire Red, Violet, Bright Yellow, and Brilliant Blue. And I'm going to make a 1% solution, and then I will be ready to do my first dive into dyeing exercise, which is creating 15 different mini or micro skeins using the 3 primary colors and blending them in different percentages so that you get different colorways. So it's going to take me a while to get all of that together, but step 1 is to measure out the dye powders and get them into solution with water, with hot water, and then pour them into my bottles, which I don't have on the table here, which will be my 1% solutions. So, safety, safety, safety. I am not a dyeing instructor, so I am not giving you instruction, but I am going to put on my N95 mask. We probably have one of the last boxes of N95 masks that were sold by Home Depot before the pandemic, because I bought a respirator that is more sophisticated, but I can't figure out how to get it together. So I am going to use the N95, take these from powder into liquid solution, and then I will come back with the next part. So part 1 begins. So it took me a really long time to make those dye stock solutions, and none of them are exact. I got the closest with my last one. Total volume, I wanted to have 200 milliliters. 1 gram of dye per 100 milliliters of water gives you a 1% solution. But I found it very difficult to get them precise, even using the scale. So I think that's something that as time goes on, I will get better at. I covered my work surface, which is my kitchen, with a plastic disposable or reusable, in this case, tablecloth. Then I laid down paper towels that had been soaked in water to catch any particles of dye that might be floating around. And that seemed to work fairly well. I don't have any place else to use but my kitchen, and so that's what I used. I was very careful. There's no food stuff anywhere around. I covered anything that I thought might be a problem, and so now my dye stocks, not precise, but they're made, and I will be using them to do the dive into dyeing, the first little exercise, which I said again is using the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and making 15 different color solutions. So I will get to the next step and then I'll be back. Okay, final stages. Here are my 15 colorways that were started from using the yellow, the brilliant blue, and the flame red. I found this exercise to be more challenging than I expected, and maybe part of that's my age, but I just didn't have things coordinated properly. When I was mixing my dye stock, I know that my yellow was off. So there's very little variation in my greens. And my orange, this should be orange. Very, very little difference here. Again, because I did not get the right proportion in my yellow. But It was a valuable exercise. I learned some things. These are close to semi-solid, but there are streaks and areas that are lighter. And again, dyeing mini skeins or micro skeins, I guess, which I put together, also not the best job. In these small containers, the yarn doesn't have that much room to move around, so you don't get the completely solid yarn that you might get under other circumstances. I did follow Rebecca of Chemknits instructions for the most part, except, like I said, my dye stock was not made properly. And I found it rather a daunting task to do these 15, but it's a valuable exercise because you can see the variations, even though they're not exact, that can be made with just using the 3 primary colors. So that was valuable lesson for me. It took a lot more time than I expected. And because I was so concerned about keeping the yarn in the order that it had been dyed and the percentages, I only dyed the reds together. I dyed the greens together, the blues, and the purple and the yellow separately because I wanted to make sure that I kept them where they were supposed to be. So that is my first attempt at dyeing with acid dye. I was a little nervous about using it, and I'm still a little nervous about using it because, you know, it can be toxic. I was very careful, and I only made a couple of boo-boos in terms of my counters, and they're not fancy, but I did get a little of the dye on them when I was not mixing the dye stock, but when I was doing the proportions for each of these. But I enjoyed it, and I am ready for the next exercise, and I think I'm ready to pick a colorway and do my own because I'm doing this because I have some things in mind for my weaving. But I will also use all of these colors. And so that's it. Happy Monday, and I'll be back when I have something else to tell you. Have a good week.